The compound where they lived was not grand. It wasn't the kind of place you'd see in glossy magazines or on the front page of a housing brochure. But it was alive. Children's laughter echoed through the courtyard. The scent of fried plantain and jollof rice often drifted from one window to another. And in the evenings, when the heat of the day had finally cooled, the women sat outside, fanning themselves, talking about life, about men, about dreams. They were three. 3 women bound not by blood, but by proximity, circumstance, and a kind of sisterhood that comes when you see each other every single day. There was Amanda. Beautiful, with skin that glowed even when she was tired. A mother of 2. Her husband, Chidi, was a schoolteacher. Not wealthy, no. But steady. He loved his wife, adored his children, and worked tirelessly to provide what he could. Then there was Ngozi, the playful one. Newly married, with no children yet. Her husband, Toby, worked at a logistics company. His salary wasn't large, but his dreams were. And he always made sure Ngozi had just enough to smile about. And then, there was Chioma. The one whose presence made heads turn. She wasn't yet married, but engaged to a man none of them had met. A man she called my kin. She was always polished. Hair laid, nails sharp, clothes crisp. She walked like the ground itself was beneath her command. And whenever they gathered, she spoke with a confidence that sometimes made Amanda and Ngozi shrink in their seats. At first, it was innocent. The 3 of them would sit together, peeling groundnuts, laughing about old Nollywood movies, sharing recipes. Amanda would complain about her little boy refusing to do his homework. Ngozi would giggle about Toby's habit of snoring so loudly, the neighbors could hear. And Chioma would smile softly, as though her word had no flaws. My fiancé doesn't let me stress, she would say, adjusting her gold earrings that glimmered in the fading sun. He sends me money so I never have to lift a finger. A woman should be cared for, don't you think? Her words always hung heavy in the air. Amanda would glance at Ngozi. Ngozi would shift uncomfortably. And though neither of them said it aloud, a small seed had been planted. Amanda remembered the day she and Chidi moved into the compound. They had carried their things in borrowed wheelbarrows. She remembered the sweat dripping down his forehead as he smiled and said, "It's not much, my love, but it's ours." That night, they ate bread and beans on the floor of their empty apartment, laughing like they owned the world. But now, when she looked at Chioma's freshly manicured hands, at the glint of her engagement ring, that memory felt distant. Too small. Too humble. Ngozi, too, began to notice the difference. She recalled Toby saving for weeks just to buy her a pair of modest shoes for her birthday. She had cried then, tears of gratitude. But after Chioma casually boasted about her fiancé sending her money for a shopping spree in Lagos, those shoes suddenly looked cheap in her eyes. Evenings in the compound began to change. The laughter was still there. The groundnuts were still shared. But beneath every joke, beneath every story, there was comparison. Chioma's voice always seemed louder. Her stories always brighter. He gave me $500,000 last week just for upkeep. My king says I shouldn't worry about anything. He'll handle it all. He told me, Chioma, you are too precious to struggle. Amanda would nod politely, but her heart tightened. Ngozi would force a smile, but her chest burned. And when they went home to their husbands, their words were sharper. Their patience thinner. Why don't you do more? Look at what Chioma's man does for her. Don't you love me enough to spoil me? Their men, tired and confused, would defend themselves. Amanda, I give you all I can. Is it not enough? Ngozi, I'm trying. Why compare me to another man? But their wives were no longer listening. The seed had sprouted. In the courtyard, Chioma would sit with them, smiling sweetly, sipping juice from a glass cup. To her friends, she was an example. To the neighbors, she was a queen. To herself, she was hiding something. But no one knew that yet. The compound buzzed with envy and whispers. And as the sun dipped low, 3 women sat side by side, not knowing that the bond between them was already beginning to crack. In the compound, peace was no longer peace. It had become a mirror, reflecting back every woman's discontent. And at the center of it all was Chioma. The days passed, and the courtyard seemed to change its rhythm. Where once laughter had spilled like fresh palm wine, now there were pauses, heavy silences between words, glances that carried more weight than they should. Amanda, Ngozi, and Chioma still gathered in the evenings, still shared roasted corn and groundnuts, still fanned themselves against the evening heat. But the tone of their conversations had shifted. Chioma would arrive last. Her perfume would linger long before she sat down. She wore new clothes almost every time, bright Ankara dresses that shimmered in the light, golden bangles that caught the sun, sandals that clicked softly against the cement floor. The others noticed. They always noticed. Amanda began to feel the strain in her home. She would watch her husband, Chidi, pack his lesson notes for school the next morning. His shirts were faded from years of washing, his shoes polished so often that the leather had grown thin. He was a good man, a steady man. But when she remembered Chioma's words, my fiancé just gave me $500,000 for upkeep, something inside her shifted. Her words to him became sharper. Chidi, why do you never surprise me with anything? Is it only food and rent you can provide? Chidi, tired, would rub his forehead. Amanda, I am doing my best. I give you what I can. Do you not see me? But her heart no longer saw his effort. Her heart only saw the sparkle on Chioma's wrist. Ngozi's home, too, began to tremble. Her husband, Toby, worked long hours at the logistics office. He often came home with his shirt damp from sweat, his hands rough from carrying boxes. Still, he smiled. He always smiled. But Ngozi's eyes had changed. She scrolled through Chioma's Instagram late at night, staring at pictures of designer bags, boxes of shoes stacked high, captions that read, "A queen should be pampered." When a man loves you, he proves it with actions, not words. She began to compare. "Toby, why don't you ever take me out? Why can't you be like Chioma's man? Look at what he gives her." Toby would sigh deeply, the weight of disappointment pressing on his chest. "Ngozi, must you measure my love with money?" But her ears were closed. The seed of discontent had already taken root. In the courtyard, the other women watched too. Neighbors whispered, children pointed at Chioma's new dresses, old women shook their heads and muttered, "That girl is eating life with a golden spoon." Chioma never corrected them. Instead, she leaned into the row. She told stories of weekend trips to resorts in Abuja, of her fiancé sending her money, just because gifts, it seemed endless. Her voice was soft, smooth, like palm oil poured over yam. And with every word, Amanda and Ngozi sank deeper into their own discontent. Amanda remembered the days when love was enough. When Chidi had written her small love notes on scraps of paper during their courtship. When he had once borrowed his brother's old bicycle to take her to a local market, laughing the entire way. Back then, the absence of riches was not a wound, it was a bond. But now, those memories felt weak against the glittering tales Chioma painted each evening. Ngozi too had her memories. She remembered Toby saving for months to buy her a simple necklace. He had hidden it in a covered plate he served her, pretending it was fried rice, grinning nervously as she opened it. She had cried that day, tears of joy, of gratitude. But now, she looked at that necklace with disdain. Compared to Chioma's new earrings, it felt like nothing. The compound began to notice the shift. Amanda's children, once playful, now looked weary. They heard their mother's voice raised at night. They saw their father's face grow tired. Ngozi stopped laughing as much. The lightness in her voice was gone. And Chioma walked taller than ever. She posted more. Her Instagram bloomed with photos. Red heels placed neatly by a poolside. Shopping bags lined against a wall. Captions with hearts and crowns. The neighbors scrolled. The women sighed. The men grew weary. One evening, as the three women sat together, a small crack appeared in the mask. Ngozi asked softly, "Chioma, your man, this fiancé of yours, when will we see him?" Chioma's hand paused for just a fraction of a second as she adjusted her earrings. Her smile returned quickly, too quickly. "He's busy, Ngozi. You know how men with real money are. Always in meetings, always traveling. But soon, very soon, you will meet him." Amanda and Ngozi exchanged glances. Just a flicker. And in that flicker, suspicion was born. The compound had become a stage. Chioma was the star. Amanda and Ngozi, unwilling audience members, trapped between envy and suspicion. But masks cannot be worn forever. And soon, the cracks would widen. In the compound, suspicion had become a quiet drumbeat. Soft at first. Almost unnoticed. But with each passing day, it grew louder. Amanda and Ngozi could no longer ignore the questions rising in their hearts. Chioma's stories were sweet, yes, but they were beginning to taste too sweet, like overripe fruit hiding rot inside. Each evening, when she spoke of gifts and trips, their eyes lingered on the small things. How her phone screen was cracked, though she claimed her fiancé had just bought her the newest model. How she repeated the same handbag week after week, even while posting new ones online. How, when she laughed about $500,000 in upkeep, her voice trembled, just a little. But suspicion is a dangerous thing. It does not rest quietly. It grows. One Saturday, the three women gathered in Chioma's room, as they often did. The air was warm, heavy with the scent of coconut oil and fried plantain. Chioma had spread out boxes across her bed, boxes from designer brands, glossy and impressive. Amanda's eyes lingered on them. Ngozi reached out, touching one carefully, like it might shatter. Chioma, she whispered, you are really enjoying oh. See the kind of life God has given you. Chioma smiled, her lips painted a bright, defiant red. When a man loves a woman, she said, he proves it with his wallet. The words struck Amanda like a slap. She remembered Chidi, her husband, staying awake by candlelight, marking lesson notes for his students, as heavy but determined. She remembered him pressing crumpled notes into her palm, whispering, it's not much, but manage it for now. I will do more. Her throat tightened. Was that not love too? Weeks passed. The tension grew. Chioma's online following soared. More posts, more smiles, more glitter. Her neighbors watched silently as she became a symbol of what they thought they lacked. Until the day the knock came. It was late afternoon. The compound was quiet, children asleep, men at work. Chioma had just returned from the market, her wrapper tied loosely, sweat beading on her forehead. The knock was sharp. Unforgiving. 3 men stepped into the courtyard. Broad shoulders. Hard eyes. The kind of presence that made the air turn heavy. They called her name. Chioma. Amanda and Ngozi stood at their doorways, hearts pounding. Chioma tried to smile. Yes. Can I help you? The tallest of the men spoke. Where is our money? The courtyard froze. Amanda blinked. Ngozi gripped her wrapper tight. Chioma stammered. I don't know what you are talking about. The man's laughter was cruel. Don't pretend, Chioma. You think we don't know where you live? Do you think your little performances online can pay your debt? The mask slipped. For the first time, Chioma's confident face crumbled. Her lips trembled. Her knees weakened. Please, she whispered. Give me more time. The men stepped closer. Time. You have wasted enough time. Today, we collect. And in front of Amanda. In front of Ngozi. The truth unraveled. They pulled the jewelry from her wrist. The earrings from her ears. Her shoes, those red heels she had boasted about, snatched away and tossed into a sack. Even the wig on her head was stripped off, leaving her bare, trembling, humiliated. Chioma fell to her knees. Her voice broke like glass. Please. Don't take me away, I will pay, I swear. But the men were unmoved. They dragged her forward, her knees scraping the cement. Her cries echoed through the compound. Amanda and Ngozi stood frozen, shame and horror burning in their hearts. The men spat the truth into the open like poison. All those things she flaunts. Borrowed. Rented. Fake. She owes money everywhere. Even the bags she posts, empty boxes picked from dumpsters. The word sliced through the compound. The neighbors gathered. Eyes wide, mouths open. The glamorous life Chioma had built online shattered like a mirror under stone. When the men finally left, leaving her broken and barefoot in the courtyard, silence followed. The kind of silence that carries a lesson deeper than words. Amanda turned to Ngozi. Her eyes filled with regret. The late-night arguments with Chidi replayed in her mind. The ungrateful words she had thrown at him. Toby's tired face flashed before Ngozi's eyes, all the ways she had belittled his efforts, blind to the love behind them. And in that silence, the truth was clear. They had traded gratitude for envy. And envy had led them to despise what was good. And so the compound learned what many forget. Not everything glittering on social media is gold. Some of it is borrowed. Some of it is lies. And if you measure your life against illusions, you may throw away the very treasures already in your hands. Because in the end, envy eats more than pride. It eats peace. It eats love. It eats everything.